Dun, 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 dun. Well, we're getting ready to do another prime time tonight, 8 o'clock Central, which is now. So we probably have some people coming in tonight, maybe, maybe not. I'm here. It's 8 o'clock. It's 5:30 in Iran. We're gonna be doing this again since I won't have a lot of people on tonight, but it might change. But this is prime time. This is breaking news. Uh, bonnet up. Good evening, contact creators. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the show. Welcome to Prime Time. We got a couple of things, subjects going to talk about. I'm on breaking news alert. That means anything happen, if it's breaking news, we'll talk about it. But I need to be on here. Um, I'm on here tonight. Got to get some hours, so that's what we're going to do today. For those of you who are watching this, the replay, thank you for coming in. My dad, my other channel here, if it gets real serious about the military response to Iran, can begin soon. We got agenda free. He's a good guy. Let's see here. I need to catch up with him. Go ahead and play. All right.
For Iran, the calculation is at least as complex. If it tries to rein in the proxy forces of backs Iraq, Yemen, Syria, and Lebanon, it risks tarnishing its claim to be leading the so-called axis of resistance of militias and friendly Middle East allies against the U.S. and Israel. But if it takes on the more powerful U.S. directly, it faces potentially punishing military defeat.
All right. So we got that going on. We're going to go ahead and play this. Double checking everything, make sure everything is working. And if I have people coming in, we'll have that. And this is my eating time, so we're going to be doing good eating. But I gotta check on my food before we continue. So I got this guy here, American Agenda. He has the latest news update on what's going to happen if it happens. Looks like it might not happen. So here we go.
President Biden has declared that he holds Iran responsible for the deadly drone attack, arguing that the Iraqi militias he says were behind the drone strike are among the many proxy forces in the Middle East funded and armed by Iran's paramilitary Quds Force. Biden has approved plans for multi-day strikes in Iraq and Syria against multiple targets, including Iranian personnel and facilities, according to U.S. officials. But the response expected to begin as soon as this weekend. Hey, this is interesting. The Wall Street Journal says response to Iran expected to begin as soon as this weekend. I hadn't seen this before. I'm going to post this actually. How do I put a box around this? Should be a little box here. Box. You can't see what I'm doing. Sorry, I'm making a screenshot here. I'm just posting this because it's interesting. See, it says expected to begin as soon as this weekend. Wall Street Journal. U.S. response to Iran is expected to begin as soon as this weekend. Right there.
Hey, the butterfly's in the house.
That would imply, hey, I mean, it's Friday morning there right now. Does that count as the weekend? Friday morning at 5:31 a.m. Dan Hooper says, yeah, be sure to broadcast when the response will happen. The response, expected to begin as soon as this weekend, says the Wall Street Journal, will be tiered, mixing military actions with other steps that can be adjusted to signal that Washington doesn't seek further escalation. The goal, U.S. officials say, is to get Iran and its proxies to dial back their attacks across the region as the White House and its allies pursue talks on a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel they hope will de-escalate tensions. Iran has sent its own signals, insisting it did not order the attack and warning that U.S. reprisals against Iranian territory or personnel deployed around the region would prompt it to strike back. The underlying message, analysts said, was one of restraint as long as Washington didn't cross its red lines. By signaling its intention well in advance of any strikes, the White House may give Iran time to reposition personnel and equipment, limiting the effectiveness of U.S. attacks, analysts said. But it could also ease pressure on Tehran to respond. That's interesting. You guys talking about how you thought maybe the response would be earlier, and it gives, gives the other side time to, hide their people or move equipment around. But analysts say it could also ease pressure on Tehran to respond. Joseph Votel, a retired U.S. Army general, said the U.S. response had to send a message to Iran that would only be effective if it included direct attacks on Iranian targets, along with other strikes on its proxies. Is that going to happen? I don't know. That's a big question. Will any Iranian targets, either inside or outside Iran, be targeted directly? Retired General Votel said, there has to be a very unambiguous message to Iran that we hold them responsible for the actions of these militias. I think the targeting has to include some targets that are of value to Iran. These targets don't need to be instant.
All right, hold on. Had to go out here before I got in here. We have ocean travel. What's going on? A lot of people want to know what is going on. Yes, I am waiting. We're supposed to have Bruce, I am 100% full, pro-U.S. military. You probably know we had 3 Army personnel that were killed by the terrorist attack. We have 40 of them were injured. We have people who went to the hospital in Germany. Joe Biden said he's going to do some strikes. It happened on Sunday. Today's Thursday. 5 days and nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I'm here, just waiting for the breaking news to happen. If you want to talk about cruising, we can talk about cruising. But the main thing is we're going to be talking about what's happening. I got the pictures. Let me see. I'll put the pictures up. I'm just waiting. Hold on. A lot of people say this is prime. Yeah, this is prime time. The original prime time is here. We'll put that right there. Now, so these are the three Army Reserve persons that were killed by the terrorist attack. I'm sorry. Every time I put that up there, I get emotional. Uh, I get emotional when I watch that, see that these three young people, United States Army, were stationed in home station was in Georgia. Um, the reason why I'm doing this because I think this is more important than talking about cruising right now because this affects everybody. And when I was on the Jubilee, I got to go to the Healers Lounge, and I felt a chill going through that because it reminds me of the people that sacrificed their lives for our country. And I have. So if you want to watch this, you want to put this on your volume on one. Appreciate you coming in. Um, that's why I got this here. Let me go ahead and back to my person I'm talking to. He has some actual reports. Also got Sky News and BBC News. They'll probably get the first news. All right, hold on. I think something.
Said this is going to be an American operation because uh, because it Americans were the ones killed. So it is not news that the UK would not participate in this.
Hmm.
Hey, Joe True's been who I follow because he's an expert on Palestinian groups. He actually mentioned. I had just told you guys. I saw that the Wall Street Journal, their article said these strikes are expected to begin this weekend, as soon as this weekend. Joe said what's lacking is creative thinking by the political and military echelons, signaling to Iranian militias you are going to hit them, including giving them a rough time frame, isn't going to change much. They will thank you today and go back to trying to kill you tomorrow. So Joe doesn't think these strikes are going to do much.
Well, yeah, so it's a thing. Day
Hey,
5.
thanks Tim Schiegler
Sorry, go ahead.
for the gift memberships. Thanks, Tim. Very nice of you. Take some more comments here. We should look and see. We should look and see what Secretary Austin had to say. Defense Secretary Austin had to say today. We'll play that
Okay.
shortly. Murph says, "Do you think all the Iranian-backed prosecutors communicate with each other?" That I don't know. I'm guessing if there's something important, there's a way for them to communicate with each other. Maybe through Iran. Brent Nansett thinks risk to air routes through Qatar and Dubai might limit targets available to USA forces. I have not heard any analysts say that. I'm not saying that's not true, but I have not heard any analysts suggest that. Holly Zane says it's going to be a weak response. Caleb Turnbow thinks they will be underwhelming. So we have Iran here, Iraq, Syria, Yemen down here. Why isn't the name Syria on the map? Where's Syria? Why is it up here?
All right. Go
I
ahead.
also want to look at this. This is talks about what we were talking about. The War Zone has an article: Iranian proxies scatter ahead of looming U.S. retaliation strikes. We should check that out. Adam Cox 9 thinks it's going to be overwhelmingly underwhelming. JW thinks the U.S. has no backbone right now. Thanks to Robert Twidwell for the gift memberships. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, people keep messaging me about Damascus. So it's not confirmed. I saw some sources online reporting some explosions in or near Damascus. It seems like those are probably Israeli attacks because Israel frequently strikes in and around Damascus, especially when it believes Iran is trying to bring weapons into Syria. So I have seen nothing to suggest that if there are indeed explosions or have been explosions in and around Damascus and air defenses, I've seen nothing to suggest that's not just the usual stuff with Israel doing some strikes there. If I hear otherwise, I'll let you know, but that's what it looks like to me. BNO News posted this. Gas station explodes in Nairobi, Kenya. At least 165 injured. Rescue work ongoing. Looks like a huge explosion. That is from BNO News. Thanks to our viewers who are messaging me about them posting that. Let's look at this report from the War Zone. I like the War Zone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, so we got that going on. We added the Z show because this
Here,
is
the War Zone says Iranian proxies scattered ahead of looming U.S. retaliation strikes. Plans are already leaking about the extent of the expected attacks in response to the deadly drone strike on the U.S. soldiers in Jordan. Yes, we're seeing multiple outlets say they've heard from U.S. officials about what this might look like, this response. And before I get into this article, just remember CBS News already had a report today on this. CBS News said, plans for U.S. strikes on Iranian personnel and facilities in Iraq and Syria, not in Iran, approved after Jordan drone attack. I mean, it kind of makes sense because you might think the U.S. doesn't want to bomb Iran directly because that might be seen as too risky for escalation. But if they don't attack any Iranian forces and just attack Iranian proxies, groups who do Iran's bidding, then it might not be seen as deterring enough to Iran. So I wouldn't be surprised if part of this is attacking Iranian personnel and facilities, but not in Iran. So you're trying to make it serious enough to deter Iran, but not so serious that it's going to create a wider conflict. Let's see here. So again, CBS News said U.S. officials have confirmed to CBS News that plans have been approved for a series of strikes over a number of days against targets, including Iranian personnel and facilities inside Iraq and Syria. It does not say inside Iran. These strikes will come in response to drone and rocket attacks targeting U.S. forces in the region, including the drone attack on Sunday that killed 3 U.S. service members in Jordan. And then you can see down here it says weather will be a major factor in the timing of the strikes, U.S. officials told CBS News, as the U.S. has the capability to carry out strikes in bad weather but prefers to have better visibility of selected targets as a safeguard against inadvertently hitting civilians who might stray into the area at the last moment. What your article claims. Eden Jane K. White says, I think it'll be within hours if they begin. So that's like an example of a report you see in the media that it'll be inside Iraq and Syria, will include Iranian personnel and facilities targeted. So that's when the war zone says plans are already leaking about the extent of the expected attacks. Iranian proxies scatter ahead of looming U.S. retaliation strikes.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is from the war zone, which I really like. TWZ.com. It's a very good military news site. Plans are leaking out about the expected American response, sending many of the intended targets scrambling for cover, says the war zone.
Mm.
They talk about that CBS report we just talked about. The war zone says as each day passes since the fatal drone attack, there's been more time for potential targets to prepare. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights organization, which I believe monitors Syria, if I have that right. Where is it here? I'll tell you what they do. It's a UK-based information office whose stated aim is to document human rights in Syria. It reports on stuff in Syria. So the SOHR said a state of maximum alert has continued since the day before yesterday in all Iranian militias positions in the Syrian desert and Deir ez-Zor. It says also the leaders of the pro-Iranian groups in Syria took measures to reduce human losses in the event of the expected American targeting of their positions in Syria, as they sent their leaders to the governorates of Damascus and Homs. They also informed the leadership of the Iranian militias in Syria to stay at home and maintain contact with the leaders of the groups, while it was content with guarding the sites in anticipation of American strikes in the coming hours amid great confusion and strikes. So they're just talking about, there has been time for these groups to prepare for the U.S. strikes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and do this real quickly. I got him on pause. Let's talk about this. Let's be real. This is Primetime. If you're watching this replay, thank you guys for that. Talking about the true patriots. Now here's the thing. Here's the thing. Now, Saturday night, over the weekend, we had a drone attack one of our bases. We had one of our drones, one of their drones, excuse me. It won't let me talk. So there was a terrorist attack that hit one of our bases. You see on the screen we have three brave American soldiers that passed away, died. We had 40 injured. We had at least 5 or 7 were transported to the military base in Germany. That's one of the top hospitals in the world. Now, let me straight up with you guys. We have a knucklehead in the White House, don't know what to do. Now, the attacks were on Saturday night. He said he's going to do something about it, but he hasn't done anything about it. Today's Thursday. 5 days and nothing. Now, if you attack somebody and the guy says we're not going to attack Iran, do you know where the head of the terrorist organization is going to go to? They're going to go to Iran. This is how naive and stupid Joe Biden is. It's sad. It's very, very sad. Um, Thank you guys for watching. 3 people, 5 people on my other channels. But it's very, very sad. It's very, very sad that this president has not done anything. It's been 5 days, going on 6 days. They haven't done anything about it. And we all know that Iran is the #1 state sponsor of terrorism. There's all these terrorist attacks get the money from Iran. They get their drones from Iran. And Joe Biden says we're not going to attack Iran. So it's been 5 days. So all the head terrorists are going to Iran now. So we're not going to touch them. And then he's going to be in the right. I mean, I hate to say this, when Trump was there and they were acting up, he says, hey, we know where you live at. We know where you live at. One of our troops get injured. We're coming after you. And yeah, we came after one of the generals of Iran, natural, the head of they call it Republican Guard in Iran, got rid of him. Syria was from Russia using chemical weapons. They're on their own people. So we ain't gonna take that. Trump took care of that situation. And then we have Let's Go Brandon. Let's Go Brandon. Joe Biden said that withdraw from Afghanistan. The generals say we need to guard our military airport instead of guarding our civilian airport. Joe Biden overrid that, and 13 Americans passed away. And then a couple of weeks before this attack, we had a SEAL team went to go seize a boat. One of them fell, and I don't know what to go there. They both passed away. In that boat they seized was materials and weapons from Iran. So 2 + 2 + 2 is 4. Oh, sorry. 2 + 2 + 2 is 6. We know the weapons of Iran. We know they get money from Iran. But this knucklehead won't touch Iran. Oh, boy. So we go back here. I think he's going to talk about Secretary of Defense. We'll go ahead and do this real quickly.
Strike the next day, or is it going to be some kind of ongoing thing where we keep hearing about things throughout the day? That I do not know. Mary B says, it's been enough time now. Time is up.
It is 6 o'clock in the morning, Iran time, 5:54 Iran time.
I
Now,
think next we should look at what Defense Secretary Austin said.
yes, let's go ahead and put him on.
Security officers UK says Middle East war could further destabilize countries and governments. This could lead to power vacuums, increased extremism, and the rise of non-state actors. I think the Biden administration certainly wants to avoid a larger war in the Middle East. If there's a lot more fighting there, if the conflict expands, you can have many more people get injured and killed. It would be very expensive for the U.S. Huge economic consequences. Price of oil could skyrocket, for example. Gary Eckert said the first strike, they won't even know where it came from. Mahjong lady says they usually go for the weapons bases.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't work. You got to go to the key men.
Julie Russell thinks they're waiting for the weather to clear. Strikes will be coming soon. Why don't we take a second and look at this? We should look at this.
All right.
We should look at this.
We'll look at the weather.
Here we go.
All right. Let's see. I think he got something coming up.
We're going to look a little at what Secretary of Defense Austin had to say about this.
Let's go. Now, this is the Secretary of Defense. He's going to set it up for us.
Let's get it on the screen here. Look, there it is. Austin holds briefing, but I want to say earlier today. You'll get to hear it from him, what he had to say.
Mm-hmm. Now, this get ready to be a Pentagon press briefing earlier today. As soon as he loads it up, you'll hear it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Primetime.
Let's hear what he had to say.
All right, here we go. As soon as he plays it.
Give me one moment. Then we'll play what he said. Hey, thanks to Eve Richards for the Facebook stars. Thanks, Eve. Let's listen in.
All right, here he goes.
6, Sergeant.
All right. Yeah, it's not 100%.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. It's my
There we go.
pleasure to welcome Secretary of Defense Lloyd J. Austin III to the Pentagon briefing room. The Secretary will deliver opening remarks and then take your questions. Please note that I will moderate those questions and call on journalists, so I'd ask that you raise your hand. If you have a question, wait to be recognized, and I'll call upon you. With that, over to you, Mr. Secretary.
Thanks, Brad. Good morning. It's been a difficult few days for the Department of Defense, and the entire department is united in our outrage and sorrow over the death of 3 U.S. service members on Sunday in Jordan. We all mourn the loss of 3 Army Reserve soldiers serving at Tower 22. Sergeant William J. Rivers, age 46, Sergeant Kennedy L. Sanders, age 24, and Sergeant Brianna A. Moffitt, age 23. Our thoughts and prayers are with their families and their loved ones, and we know that this grief will never leave them. We hope that they know that the department's love and support will never leave them either. We're also praying for the other American troops who were wounded. Now, our teammates were killed when a one-way attack drone struck their living quarters. And we continue to gather the facts about this deadly attack. Our fallen soldiers had a vital mission to support Operation Inherent Resolve and to work with our partners to ensure the lasting defeat of ISIS. They risked their lives and lost their lives to keep their fellow Americans safe from global terrorism. The president will not tolerate attacks on American troops,
Yeah, but he did.
and neither will I.
I don't believe that.
Our teammates were killed by radical militias backed
Teammates.
by Iran and operating inside Syria and Iraq. In the
Teammates.
aftermath of the vile Hamas terrorist assault on Israel on October 7th, terrorist groups backed by Iran and funded by Iran have tried to create even more turmoil, including the Houthis attacking commercial shipping in the Red Sea. So this is a dangerous moment in the Middle East. We will continue to work to avoid a wider conflict in the region,
No,
but we will
please.
take all necessary actions to defend the United States, our interests, and our people. And we will respond when we choose, where we choose,
Uh-huh.
and how we choose.
I don't believe that. I don't.
Now, that's what everyone here is focused on. But in my first week back in the Pentagon, I did want to address my recent hospital stay and some of the issues around it.
All right, now I'm going to play this part of his remarks. It's not going to have to do with Iran. Remember, Lloyd Austin, Secretary Austin, Secretary of Defense Austin, he was hospitalized, I want to say like a month ago or so. But it was very secretive, and like for several days, I don't believe President Biden knew where he was, and much of the nation's leadership did not know where he was or that he was in a hospital. So it was all very secretive. And then he said he regretted being so secretive about it. And I think ultimately what came out was he got cancer, and let me just show you prostate cancer. And he did say according to Associated Press, his doctors at Walter Reed says his prostate cancer diagnosis is excellent and no further treatments will be needed. He was diagnosed in December and spent 2 weeks in the hospital. His hospitalization was kept secret for days, not only from the public, but from President Biden. Okay, that's an article from the AP from about 5 days ago. Anyways, normally I would only play the stuff where he talks about Iran, but I think it's interesting to just hear what he says about this. I don't think it'll take very long, and then he'll get to the Q&A where he talks more about the Iran response. But this is in case you didn't know the background, that's what he's about to talk about right here.
I'm recovering well, but as you can see, I'm still recovering. Still having some leg pain and doing physical therapy to get past it. I'm deeply grateful to my doctors and the nursing staff at Walter Reed, and I very much appreciate all the good wishes. But I want to be crystal clear. We did not handle this right. I did not handle this right. I should have told the president about my cancer diagnosis. I should have also told my team and the American public. And I take full responsibility. I apologize to my teammates and to the American people. Now, I want to make it very clear that...
And really quick, just to clarify, he spent 2 weeks in the hospital following complications from a prostatectomy. Which is... that's from the AP report. Johns Hopkins Medicine says a prostatectomy is a surgical procedure for the partial or complete removal of the prostate. And then after that procedure, I believe he went home and then he wasn't feeling well and had to go back to the hospital. Anyways, I'm not going to get into all the details of that now, but we want to get to where he talks about the Iran stuff, which he'll be coming up, but I just want to let you know that.
There were no gaps in authorities and no risk to the department's command and control. At every moment, either I or the deputy secretary was in full charge. And we've already put in place some new procedures to make sure that any lapses in notification don't happen. In the future, if the Deputy Secretary needs to temporarily assume the duties of my office, she and several White House offices will be immediately notified, including the White House Situation Room. And so will key officials across the department. And the reason for that assumption of duties will be included in writing. Now, I want you all to know why this happened. I was being treated for prostate cancer. The news shook me. I know that it shakes so many others, especially in the Black community. It was a gut punch. Frankly, my first instinct was to keep it private. I don't think it's news that I'm a pretty private guy. I never liked burdening others with my problems. It's just not my way. But I've learned from this experience. Taking this kind of job means losing some of the privacy that most of us expect. The American people have a right to know if their leaders are facing health challenges that might affect their ability to perform their duties, even temporarily. So a wider circle should have been notified, especially the president. I'll take your questions today, but as you know, we've got an ongoing internal review, as well as a DoD Inspector General review that we fully support. So I may have to discuss some aspects later. Now, let me back up a bit. As you know, on 22nd December, I had a minimally invasive procedure to cure me of my recently diagnosed prostate cancer. And then I hit some bad luck during what is usually a pretty easy recovery. On January 1st, I felt severe leg pain and pain in the abdomen and hip. That evening, an ambulance took me to Walter Reed. The doctors found that I had several issues that needed treatment, including a bladder infection and abdominal problems. On January 2nd, I was also experiencing...
Okay, I don't want to bore you with all that details with the Secretary of Defense. But here's the thing, and I got to talk about it. It's for our military high standards. Now, a Secretary of Defense has to tell the President of the United States he's going to the hospital. Period. Apparently, Joe Biden did not know where the Secretary of Defense is in the middle of terrorist attacks in the Middle East. Joe Biden or this Secretary of Defense was lying. I don't know what it is. I can't figure it out. But a decent Secretary of Defense would tell the president, his boss, hey, I need to go to the hospital. I got prostate cancer. But yeah. So apparently, this is the story. The Secretary of Defense went to the Walter Reed. There's a military hospital in D.C. The Assistant Secretary of Defense was not available. She was on vacation in Puerto Rico. She didn't know where the Secretary of Defense was. So that's the breakdown of the chain of command, and somebody needs to get fired. Somebody needs to resign. And why am I saying that? Why people say, well, you can't tell the Secretary of Defense to resign because we're in the middle of a terrorist attack. See, a lot of fishy things are going on. And this is day 5, and no response. The Pentagon got flat-footed. And this is not the first attack. It's been 150 attacks on our military bases, our ships, commercial shipping, and they deal with the prick shots going to get the empty warehouses and stuff like that. You need to hit the head of the snake. You need to chop out the head of the snake. Okay, let's see here. I think you take questions now. Okay, hold on.
To keep this from the White House, did you direct your staff or others to keep it from the public.
All right, what I'm going to do now that we've heard his statement from today, I'm just going to jump to the questions that are about Iran. Because we
Thank
want to
you.
hear what he says about the response to Iran. And I know he talks about it during his remarks today. But I'll skip over the questions about, his going in the hospital and not telling everyone. So
Yeah.
bear with me as I do that. It might take, give me a second, I'll kind of cue it up here.
While he's doing that, I'm checking the Skynet.
Right.
But we watch what they do.
Okay, here we go.
And again, to answer your question on whether or not I directed my staff to conceal my hospitalization from anyone else, the answer is no. In terms of my response to KH's statement, we always listen to what.
Sorry. Part of the question was about Kataib Hezbollah, so I shouldn't have even forwarded. Let me go back and play the question for you.
I need to get ready to go.
Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. You said that you never directed anyone to keep this from the White House. Did you direct your staff or others to keep it from the public and from other senior staff members? And if you did not, has anyone been disciplined for doing something that you did not tell them to do? And then just quickly on Iraq and Syria, what is your response to the KH statement today that they are postponing or not doing any more attacks?
So she's referring to a statement by the Iranian backed proxy group Kataib Hezbollah, who said, I think it was yesterday, that they're temporarily suspending all attacks against American forces. Kataib Hezbollah is one of the, I would say, the prime suspects in the drone attack that killed 3 U.S. troops. The U.S. government has said that that attack had the fingerprints or the hallmarks of a Kataib Hezbollah attack.
Good morning, Leader. To answer your question on whether or not I directed my staff to conceal my hospitalization from anyone else, the answer is no. In terms of my response to KH's statement, we always listen to what people are saying, but we watch what they do. And again, actions are everything.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens in the future.
We'll see what happens in the future.
Sir, during that time that you were in the intensive care unit, there was an airstrike carried out, a drone strike against an Iraqi leader of a militia. How is it that, do you regret that the authorities were not clear at that point? And what can you explain about what was going through your mind at that time? And then separately, there's been a lot of telegraphing about targeting and responding to the drone strike, so much so that the Iranian proxy leaders have left the country. Some are back in Tehran. Has there been too much telegraphing, or is the point not to kill any Iranian commanders?
That's a good question.
Regarding the strike on the 8th, that strike was planned. I had made recommendations to the president on actions that we should carry out, and the president made a decision, and based upon that decision, authorities were pushed down to the Central Command commander. And as you know, a strike like that, you can't pick the precise time when that strike is going to take place. You want to minimize collateral damage.
Oh my God, really?
Right. And so the subordinate commander had the controls on that particular strike. So that I was very much involved in the planning and the recommendations for that, and we knew that that would take place within a matter of days. In terms of telegraphing about strikes and whether or not people leave or would have left. I won't speculate on any of that. I would just tell you that we will have a multi-tier response, and again, we have the ability to respond a number of times depending on what the situation is.
Yeah, right.
So yesterday we had John Kirby saying that the response, the first thing you see in the response is not going to be the last thing, right? So it's going to be multiple parts to this response to Iran. You have the Secretary of Defense today saying it's going to be a multi-tiered response. There's some reports out there that say the response will take days or weeks. So we'll have to see what it is. But we're just going over some of what Secretary of Defense Austin said today. We're talking about some of the response to Iran.
Yeah. But we all know what happened
Let's go to
Thursday. Question.
What did your deputy know about your condition, and when did she know it?
Yeah, Phil, I think in terms of what she knew and didn't know, I think we should probably let that come out of the review. I think I won't speculate on what she knew and did not know based on what information was passed to her. Again, I think the details of that will come out of one or both of those reviews.
Okay, I'm going to stop that real quickly. So this guy is the Secretary of Defense. He is the head of the military. Now, if he's going to the hospital, he's going into the medical center, he personally has to let the Deputy Secretary of Defense know he's going to the hospital. So I don't believe what he just said. Protocol demands if a Secretary of Defense is going to anywhere around Washington, D.C., a hospital, or going to be out of the country and cannot be communicated with, the Deputy Secretary of Defense takes over. Now, when he is in the hospital, he's under drugs. The Deputy, I want to know what she says. So you got to remember, when he was going to the hospital, the Deputy Secretary of Defense was in Puerto Rico on vacation. Interesting, huh? All right, continue.
Secretary, you say you didn't direct your staff to hide this truth or lie. Did you create a culture of secrecy that then?
I'm going to forward through the question that's not about Iran.
Desires.
How is it that,
One may or may not have perceived at any one point in time. I won't speculate on it.
Let's go to ABC.
Hi, sir. Thank you for doing this, and I think on behalf of all of us here, wish your speedy recovery. I'd like to ask you about the current situation in the Middle East. The message has been deterrence, deterring the attacks by the Houthis, deterring the attacks by the militias. Has deterrence failed? And if you are going to retaliate at the time and place that you're choosing, is that not an escalation, particularly given all the rhetoric with Iran? And a question on your recovery, sir. At any point, did you feel that your situation had caused you to consider possibly resigning, given all of the political attention that had developed as a result of it?
In terms of resignation, the answer is no. In terms of escalation in the Middle East, our goal was to make sure that we contain this crisis in Gaza, and that we prevented things from spreading to a wider.
Okay.
There's a lot of activity in the region, but there's always been a lot of activity in the region. And you know well that Iranian proxy groups have been attacking our troops even well before October 7th. And
Yeah.
we can go back and count the numbers of attacks before October 7th, and they're not insignificant. There are things that are ongoing now. Well, things are not ongoing. You know, we don't see a conflict, an all-out conflict between Israel and Lebanese Hezbollah, and so I think managing that, I think, is has been artfully done.
All right, you want to pass it? Hold on. Let me see. Gonna go through that. Let me see if I can catch up with him. Let me go ahead and do this quickly. I'll wait till they catch up. I think he's done. Let me see if he's back. Yeah, 6:25 in the morning, Iran time. Still nothing.
Do you think about the U.S. telegraphing attacks? Why would they do that? Well, I mean, look, first of all, like, I mean, how much telegraphing has there really been? I think it was pretty obvious after Sunday that the U.S. would do some response, right? Officially, the U.S. hasn't said what the response will be or where it will be. You have some officials who are off the record saying, well, it's going to be in Iraq and Syria, but that's not officially from the U.S. government. So, I mean, has there really been that much telegraphing other than that there's going to be a response? I mean, you may think, so I think maybe the nature of your question is more like, why has it taken so long, right? So, you know, we've discussed various reasons. Maybe there's a lot of planning. Maybe this is a complex operation that involves getting a lot of equipment and planning and intelligence gathering into place. One of the reports said the weather could be a factor. Maybe the weather hasn't been right for it. Maybe certain diplomatic things need to be done beforehand. Or maybe the U.S. wants to avoid civilian casualties or heavy casualties because they don't want it to be so escalatory. There's that reason too. So you can imagine various reasons. Anything from it just takes time to plan exactly what's happening and to get everything into place, to maybe they want it to not be too escalatory, and try to do some kind of strike which kind of is strong enough to deter, but not so strong it escalates things. I can't say exactly, but it's not like the U.S. has said publicly, we're going to attack these 4 specific targets. That just has not happened. Here's this quote from, Here's this quote from the Wall Street Journal article today. It said, by signaling its intention well in advance of any strikes, the White House may give Iran time to reposition personnel and equipment, limiting the effectiveness of the U.S. attacks, analysts said, but it could also ease pressure on Tehran to respond. Teresa McGinn says anything is possible. We'll have to see as to what exactly is hit. There's going to be a lot of people looking at this. But I think, the Biden administration is going to have to do something more than just hit a few targets related to these militia groups in Iraq and Syria, because they've already been doing that for a couple months. And that wouldn't even be seen as as a more serious response than the previous ones. Johnny Cruz said they literally said they're going to attack at their choosing. Anyone in that region has a heads up to prepare. Well, I think that honestly, as soon as the news came out that 3 American soldiers got killed in a drone strike on a U.S. base, I'm guessing actors who act against the people who act against the U.S. in the Middle East probably knew when they heard that news, okay, the U.S. is probably going to do some response for this. I don't think they needed to read a report on ABC News or something about it. Analog Nebraska thinks delaying is a sign of weakness. Flying Scoot says, we're going to hit something. Iran is going to cry about it. This will be forgotten, and then same song and dance will happen. Wow, Chris Bartell says, shock and yawn. Wow, Chris. Hasn't even happened yet. See if I did some more updates about this. You can write to me on X at I don't think we've looked at this article yet. I like looking at these articles where it talks about the different options for the U.S. to respond. This is from Sky News. What are Biden's options to respond to the drone attack that killed U.S. soldiers? The sporadic attacks the U.S. has tried so far haven't worked, but the deaths of U.S. personnel have changed the Middle East dynamic as Tehran continues to fund proxy militias. The pressure is on President Biden to find the right answer. This is from Tom Cheshire at Sky News. We were just talking about this. The problem is that the U.S. already has been responding to attack after attack on its bases in the Middle East and has nevertheless failed to deter them. The U.S. has launched a number of strikes on militia groups in Iraq and Syria over the last several months. Look, the U.S. has retaliated to the over 160 attacks on U.S. troops in the Middle East. This graphic below shows U.S. attacks since 27 October in Syria and Iraq. All of these since the 27th of October. The U.S. attacks so far include strikes against bases operated by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the regime's most powerful military force, rather than proxy militias. Defense and security analyst Professor Michael Clark said, what the Americans were trying to do is be very graduated in their response, always to respond to individual attacks with another retaliation on the place where the attack came from. It obviously has led to the Iranians to feel that they can keep on pushing America. So I think the fact that American service personnel have been killed crossed the line. The Americans now have got to decide if they need to take a step up in terms of their response. Would a response that included sanctions or perhaps a cyber attack really be a step up? Many Iranian officials are already under sanctions, and there's domestic pressure on Biden to go further. Professor Clark suggests another option would be to target Iranian ships in the Red Sea and connecting waters. The Americans might regard that as a sensible target, since they're all part of Iran's attempts to create a crisis for America. IRGC fast boats operate regularly in the Strait of Hormuz and have seized oil tankers in the past. Earlier this month, Iran announced one of its warships had entered the Red Sea. There's also the Bashad. We've talked about the Bashad before. The Bashad is an Iranian ship which officially carries cargo, but military analysts say it carries out surveillance that has been vital for all the Houthi attacks on shipping in the Red Sea. These would be Iranian assets, but still outside Iran. Further up the escalation ladder would be an attack on Iranian territory itself. That could be limited to the coast, perhaps, or they could strike in the interior, perhaps even on nuclear facilities. This article is really going through like the whole gamut. That's at the very top of the ladder, and the U.S. would not start there, if only to give itself room to climb in the future, says Sky News. So talking about a range of possible responses, if you want to see that, go to this article here on Sky News. Joe Biden is going to respond to a drone attack to kill U.S. soldiers. What are his options? But, I think that's an important point that article makes, and we've talked about before. The U.S. has already been carrying out strikes on targets related to these Iranian-backed militia groups and the Iranian forces in the Middle East. So if they just do more of that, I don't see how it's really going to be seen as anything different. It's got to be seen as a step up from what the U.S. has already been doing attacks-wise. Doing Business says that's why I think this is going to be a large campaign. Glenn's World thinks they're waiting for the weather to fine up. Thanks to our new member, Reed Hannigan, by the way. Appreciate it, Reed. Thank you. Our viewer, Nader Hunter, says we should kinetically disassemble their drone factories. Cashul thinks there will be a prolonged back and forth that will lead into an escalation of no return. Nick Wolf thinks these strikes will happen Friday after 5 p.m. Oops, hang on a second. Give me a shout. Let me know your thoughts. At Lookner on X. It is 6:37 a.m. Iran time. 6:07 Iraq and Syria time. If you had asked me 3 days ago, if you had said 3 days ago, it'll be Thursday night, Friday morning. It's Thursday night right now, 10 p.m. I would have thought by now something would have happened. I'm actually surprised. And am I like utterly shocked? No, but I'm surprised. I figured something would have happened by now. At least, the whole process would have kicked off. Lee Pollock says next week drop leaflets. Yeah, I checked the radar. It's hard for me to tell exactly. I don't have detailed information about all the weather all across those countries. But I did show a Middle East weather radar before. According to AccuWeather, there's some rain and snow in northern Iran. There's some rain in eastern Iraq. And there's some rain in southwestern Syria. What exactly the cloud cover is, I'm not sure. And also, I don't really know to what degree the weather's really going to affect the strikes and what kind of weather and that kind of thing. But that's a weather radar from AccuWeather. Tim S. says cyber warfare going on we don't know about, maybe. Seth Dameron says they are giving them time to move everything away from the bombings. This administration is horrible.
Yep.
Thanks to Tucker Carlson for your support. I appreciate that.
Well, all right. Well, a lot of people gonna say, "What is going on? What is going on with everybody? What they're doing?" I'm getting ready to get out of here. It is another bust. Day number 5. No attack. No airstrikes. No Joe Biden. Nothing. Now Joe Biden's supposed to go to Dover Air Force Base to meet these brave Americans that passed away. Hopefully, he won't put his arm up and watching the watch. Everybody and the mom are gonna be watching that, see if he falls asleep or he's lost. So, but I'm getting ready to get out of here. It's been a long day. Don't forget tomorrow afternoon I'll be on. Tomorrow morning I got to pay bills. So tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern. I like to thank everybody that came on. Ocean, Butterflies, Go Beach Travels. Thank you for all your love and support. Thank you for the hours for every channel. So that's what I'm doing for all 3 channels. I'm not going to say my regular routine because that's just for the cruise channel. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to put this out there. Give me a second. Oh, something. Hold on. Ooh. I'm doing okay. I'll get ready to get out of here. Give me a second. I lost my pace. Lost something. All right. Just been there for almost an hour. I thank everybody for coming in. You're in a cruise right now. Well, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. I was just waiting for some breaking news. I thought we was going to do some airstrikes tonight. Apparently, it didn't happen. I'll try again tomorrow. Don't forget, tomorrow afternoon I'll be on at 2 o'clock. Or unless we have breaking news. Appreciate everybody coming in tonight.